Hello everybody, it's Juliet here. Today we are going to be making a peyote star, puffy peyote star, which makes cute little ornaments. And we're going to be adding in some bicones. So I've got some 4mm bicones in here, and I've got 3mm bicones here and around the center with another 4mm bicone there, as you can see. And I probably should have used a different color of thread there. I don't like that you can see the thread. This side's a little bit better maybe. But anyway, these are really fun to make, and I had made a star a while back. I think it was about 2 years ago, which I'll put on the screen here for you so you can see it. And when I posted it on my Instagram, lots of people said, how do you make a star with bicones in it? And I tried to explain it, but I thought, well, I know you guys are already gearing up for the holidays, and it's always good. These make great little gifts for people. I still have to put the hanger on, but so I thought I'll do a video and I'll give you guys plenty of time to make a whole bunch of these, for gifts or whatever. I'm just gonna measure this. So this is not a very big star. It's little. It's cute. It's 3 inches. No, less than 3 inches. 2.5 inches. So you can see mine is 6-pointed. You can also make a 5-pointed. The one I showed you here is in fact 5-pointed. It's the same method. I was actually going to make this 5-pointed, and then I decided to insert one more bit. So I'll show you how to do it, and you can make them bigger if you want to, and I do talk about that. I have a whole question and frequently asked questions bit where I answer some of the more common questions that I think you guys have. Obviously, if you have more, you can put them down below. And I will put some chapter markers so that you can skip forward if I'm doing a bit that you already know how to do, and skip to a bit that you're more interested in. If you already know how to make a warped square, for example, you might want to skip forward to the next section. So let's dive right in. So before we begin, let's just run through the materials list. So I'm using some Delicas, which are Delica number 35, okay. I have some 11-0 rounds, and these are Miyuki. These are number 4215, okay. I have some more 11-0s in red and green, and these are just silver lined. The green ones are Miyuki number 16, and the red ones are number 11. Then I have some 3mm bicones, and these are dark moss green. And I have some 4mm red bicones, which are Garnet Opal. Okay, so I will link everything down below for you in case you forget or want to look it up in the description below. For my thread, because I have a lot of this and it's quite, like it says it's 0.15, I feel like it's thicker than that. So I'm using Wildfire today just because, like I said, I have a lot and I don't really use it very often, and I don't really like it that much, so I'm going to use it up. So I'm using that today, and I have a size 10 beading needle, and obviously you will need some scissors. So the star that we'll be making is made out of warped squares, and then we embellish one side of it, and we have to do some shaping on the other side. Well, on both sides really, but so if you already know how to do a warped square, you might want to skip forward, and I'm going to put some chapters in this video so that you can skip forward. I'm also going to show you a couple little tips and tricks that I use. So for instance, I'm going to show how I do the very center and get a nice even tension there. And obviously I'll show you the shaping, but I'm also going to show you if you wanted to do like a line of green or, you know, gold or whatever around your crystal in the center. I'm going to show you also how you would do that. Anyway, so the star is made up of 5 of these. So I'll show you how to make one, and then you're going to go away and you're going to make 5 more. And once you've made all 5, we just zip it together like this. And that will complete our star. So you're going to need about 36 inches of thread, which is about 1 meter, to make one warped square. So go ahead, leave your 4-inch tail like you would on any other project that we do, so you can weave that in at the end. And we're going to start using our 11/0 rounds, and we're going to pick up 4. So get your 4, and I'm actually going to zoom you in a teeny bit here. Okay, and just leave that 4-inch tail, and you're just going to sew through the first one again in order to form a little circle or square or diamond shape, okay? And I like to work this in a clockwise direction, which is kind of weird, but it's like how I like to do it, okay? So you're going to pick up 2, and you're going to go into the very next bead on that original square of 4. And you can see mine's pulling loose a little bit. That's okay. I'm just going to tighten that up. Okay. So you'll notice I haven't tied any knots or gone through anything again, and I'll show you what I'm going to do to tighten it all up in a minute. Now we're going to pick up 2 more, and I'm just going to go into the very next bead, coming out this bead, going into the very next bead, okay? And you want these 2 beads to just sit next to each other, okay? So you should have something that looks a bit like this. You're going to pick up 2 more beads, and you're going to go into the very next bead. And at this point, your square may already start to warp. If it isn't, that's okay too. Just try and get those beads to sit next to each other. Make sure they're not twisted, okay? So right now it just kind of looks like a little bit of a blob. And then I'm going to pick up 2 more, and I'm going to go into the very next bead, okay? And when I pull that, okay, so you can see now that mine has already started to turn into a warp, okay? See how 2 sides are sitting up and 2 sides are sitting down? So that is the warped square effect, okay? And I'm trying to keep my tail on the bottom. So I'm calling the other side at the top. I'm just trying to get that bead to sit a little better. Okay. Now, in order to really solidify the middle here, and I'm kind of coming out on the bottom, but that's okay, I am going to pass through those 4 middle beads again, and I'm going to pull nice and tight, and that is going to lock everything in place because we've already got round 2 on, but I'm going back around through round 1. I'm just doing it on the back because it's a little bit easier for me to see. So I'm just going through those 4 original beads, skipping the 2 outside beads that we just added. And I'm working on the back, which is why I'm going in the other direction. I will flip back over to the front now. Okay, so when you pull that, then you're going to get a really nice solid center, okay? And then you can just step up wherever your thread is coming out. You're just going to step up into the first outside bead. So just follow your thread path until you're coming out from one of your pairs. Okay. So now every round from here on out, we're always gonna, when we're coming out from one of these 11-0s, we're always going to pick up 2 11-0 rounds, okay? And you're just gonna go into the next one, and they're gonna start to form, stack up in a little herringbone pattern like this. Then I'm gonna pick up 1 Delica, and I'm going to sew into the outside bead on the next cross section, okay? Oops. And that Delica is just gonna sit in between those 2 beads there. And then I'm, again, because I'm coming out one of the green rounds, I'm gonna pick up 2. I'm gonna go into the next bead that's right next to it. And if they're sitting a little crooked, you can just pull them and they should move into the correct pattern. And your square may warp upwards, it may warp downwards. It doesn't matter which way your square is warping, okay? Because we can flip it inside out. And then we're gonna pick up 1 Delica. And we're gonna go into the next, the first one on the next little branch. Okay, so he's sitting in there. Here we are coming out of a green bead, so we're going to pick up 2. And we're going to go into the next green bead. So you can tell that we're kind of building a little cross pattern here, okay? I'm trying to keep it all the same way up so you can see what I'm doing. And then here we need another Delica, so I'm going to pick up a Delica. And I'm going to go into the first bead on this side. And pull. Okay, so then I'm going to pick up 2 more. I'm going to add my 4th little side of the cross, and I'm going to pick up 1 more Delica. And here, because I've done 1, 2, 3, this is my last one, so I have to step up. So I'm going to, this is my original ring of 4, I'm going to step up through 2 beads here. So I'm going through the 2nd bead and the 3rd bead. Okay. So you're going to have to go through 2 beads to step up at the end of each round. And there is my Delica sitting there. So I now have completed round 3. And I know it's round 3 because I can count how many pairs of beads I have. I have 1, 2, 3. So that was round 3, but we only have 1 Delica so far. So whatever round you're on, you're going to have 2 less Delicas filling in the gap than, so you can either count the rounds, counting your herringbones, or you can just mark where you are by counting the Delicas, okay? So now we're going to repeat this, and each round is going to get slightly bigger by 1 Delica on each side. So we're going to pick up 2 of our rounds. Okay. And then here we're going to have to add 2 Delicas. So we pick up a Delica, go through the Delica that is there. We pick up another Delica, and we go through the 11-0 that's on the end. Okay, so now we have 2, our first one we had 1, now we have 2, the next row we will add 3, and we're just going to keep building. And every time you come up through the end here, you're going to pick up 2 rounds to build onto the diagonal cross area. Okay, so now again I'm going to add 2 Delicas, so 1 Delica go into the Delica. The second Delica, go into the end. So now you can see the difference. This side has its second round and this side doesn't. So you can kind of tell, because as it starts to get bigger, you can noticeably tell like what side you've done and what side you haven't. The most important thing is remembering to step up at the end of a round. So what I like to do is I kind of count how many little branches I've added on to. So and I just count 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, and I know that after the fourth one I have to step up. So that's one way you can keep count. The other way is it becomes quite obvious once you get moving, because see right here, I only had this bead and then this bead, so it's kind of obvious here I needed to just go into the end bead. See here, I have like a much longer area, so when I get here, I'm gonna have to go up 2. So you kind of start to see it, even if you're not counting in your head. You can kind of see where you need to step up. But if you're a beginner, I definitely recommend counting or keeping track of, okay, this side has 2, this side has 2, this side has 2, this side only has 1. So I know I have to finish the fourth side and then step up. So you're just going to add your 1, add your second one. And here I know I have to step up. So I'm just going to go up 2 rounds instead of 1 round. And now I've stepped up and I am ready for round 5, or to add 3 Delicas, okay? And you're just gonna keep going. So again, just add your 2 at the end to start your next round. And then you're going to add 1, 2, and 3 Delicas, and then I'm going to add my 2 at the end, and I'm just going to keep going, building up until I reach the row where I stepped up after adding 6 Delicas. So when you get to your 8th row, which is where you've added your 6 Delicas, and you get to your step up, that's where you're going to come back. So I'm going to speed through all of that, the next few rounds, okay? And when I have finished my round with 6 Delicas, I'll come back to you. Okay, so I just completed my round with 6 Delicas on the side, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on every side, and I should have 8, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 running up the central spine there, okay? So we're about to add row 9, or round 9. So just like we have been doing, pick up your 2 11-0s for the end, and here it's a little bit different. So you're going to think 3 space 3, okay? So you're going to pick up 1 Delica, 2 Delicas, and your 3rd Delica. So those are just normal. And now we need to leave a space. So instead of picking up a Delica, I'm going to sew down the Delica that is down below, okay? So I'm coming out of this Delica here, and I'm sewing into the one below it on the row below. Trying not to get my thread caught. There we go. And then you have to step back up into the row that we were doing. Okay. So now I have a space here, and now I'm going to add 3 more Delicas. So I'm going to go 1, 2, and 3, and in straight into the 11-0 round on the end. Okay. And if you're having trouble getting your tension right at the end, it helps to pull backwards on that one just to smush your Delica back into the other ones. I find that helps me. Okay, so then again, you're just going to pick up your regular 2 that you would for the end. And then you're going to pick up again 3 Delicas in a row. So 1, 2, and 3. And then you're going to skip the next one. So what I like to do to speed things up is I just sew through 2 beads instead of 1. Once I've added my 3rd one on, if you sew through the next 2, it just saves a step, but you do have to step back up again, okay? It just makes it a little quicker to go. And then 3 more. And you're going to do this on all 4 sides. So 1, 2, 3, and into the green bead. Okay, so I've done it on 2 sides now, and I have to do these 2 sides, and then I'll come back to you. So just continue on the same for the other 2 sides, and I'll come back to you in a second. Okay, so I'm just adding my very last Delica and stepping up through the 2 rounds at the end. So now all 4 of my sides have 1 bead missing on the side. So now we're going to embellish 2 sides of our warped square, and you don't need to do anything. You can start exactly where you are, so just where you finished coming out from the seam. Okay, so you're going to pick up a 3mm bead, bicone, 3mm bicone, and you're just going to sew into the next bead. And this is not going to want to sit straight right now, so don't worry if it sits at a little angle like this. It's really hard to get it straight, so just don't worry about it. Leave it the way it is, okay? Then we're going to pick up one of our Delicas, okay? And sew into the first Delica, okay? And that Delica is going to sit next to our round. And then I'm going to pick up one of my red 11-0 rounds. These are just silver lined 11-0 rounds, okay? And then I'm going to pick up a green one, go into the next bead. Again, that was just a 11-0 round. And then I'm going to pick up a 4mm bicone. And here you can see we have this little group of 5 right here, okay? So I'm coming out the very first bead, this group of 5, and I'm going to go into the end bead, okay? And your bicone, it's not going to sit perfectly, but you can kind of push it as well as you can. You don't have to smush it in there, okay? If it's a little bit loose, that's okay, because we're going to tighten it all up when we're zipping together. And also you're going to want your bicone to sit a little bit above the, you know, on the outside so you can see it. So the bicone doesn't fit perfectly, but it fits well enough, okay? So now you're going to pick up another green 11-0. And then you're going to pick up a red 11-0. And finally, you're going to pick up a Delica for the end, okay? And obviously you can change the colors. You don't have to even do all of them. Maybe you just want to here. This could be a Delica, so you can kind of customize this color scheme the way you want it to be, okay? And here we're going to pick up another one of our 3mm bicones. And again, coming out one side, just going straight into the next bead, okay? Again, he's not going to sit very flat right now, that's okay. Then you're going to pick up another Delica. We're just going to repeat the same thing on this side. So a red, a green, a bicone, and again I'm just looking at my 5 and I'm going into that 5th one. And then I need a green, I need a red, and then I need a Delica. And then I am also going to add one more 3mm. So you have 3 3mm bicones and you have 2 4mm on each piece, okay? And now I am just going to leave this thread dangling. I'm going to take my needle out, okay? And I'm going to sew in my tail that is in the middle here. So to do that, just go ahead and thread your tail. And then look at what bead you're coming out of. So I'm coming out this bead here. And what I like to do is I just sew up the row, not the whole way up, maybe 4 or 5, 6 is okay as well. So I just sew up like 4 beads there, okay? And then I'm gonna sew down the equivalent one on the other side of the track. And I just sew through all the way until I am coming out from the center point, okay? So just sew down all of those. Give it a tug. And then I just cut it. So I don't sew any knots or anything because this thread is not going to come out from, it's not going to come out through a whole series of beads on a seam, okay? So for now, I just leave my little tail. And on my 5th or your 1st, I actually did it on my 1st one, I got a really long piece of thread, like an entire wingspan plus maybe a little bit more. So on one of them, I have a really long thread. Okay, so maybe on your 4th one or 5th one, do it with a really long thread, okay? So once you have your 5 done, let me move these out of the way because we're not actually going to need any more beads at this point. We have all of our beads that we need. You're going to start to connect them together. And the way you connect it, so you're going to hold one of your warped pieces so that the jewels are all on one side. And there should be a V. So all of my jewels are on one side. And it's going to connect to another one that's held in the same way with all the jewels on one side, okay? And if you're like, oh no, how do I line that up? Or maybe yours is twisted, you can also flip it inside out. If it's somehow gone the wrong side, just flip it inside out and it'll fix it, okay? So my one that I have a super long piece of thread, I'm going to go ahead and thread my needle on that one. And that's going to be the first piece that I'm going to join together. And on this one, I'm coming out right after where I added that little central crystal. So I am coming out into the very first green bead here. So I need to find a piece that I want to join onto and just make sure that that's going to line up. So I'm coming out from the green piece and I'm going to sew into on my second one. I'm going to sew from, sorry, trying and show you without that bit getting in the way. Okay, so I'm here. I'm going to sew into the Delica, okay, on that side. So I'm sewing into the Delica on my right hand piece. And then I'm going to sew into the Delica on my left hand piece that's right after the second round, okay? So you're gonna sew up there. So we're just zipping these two sides together at the moment. Then I'm gonna sew into my red bead on the right hand side, okay? And it starts to become more obvious as you're going, okay? So once you've kind of got the first few in place, you can see it practically zips itself. So you're always going into the Delica on the left hand side, and then I'm going into the green round bead on the right hand side, okay? Oops, sorry. I'm knocking everything here. Okay. And then I'm going to go into the Delica on the left hand side. And then here I'm going to go through the bicone. And everything I can get caught on, I am getting caught on. Okay, so go ahead, sew through the bicone. Okay, and what you're going to want to do is you're going to kind of want to use your finger, make sure you kind of push that bicone to the front. Then you're going to go up through the Delica on the left hand side. And I'm just trying to kind of keep it so that the bicone is on the front there, okay? Then I'm going into, oops, I accidentally went through the second Delica there, hang on. Then I'm going into the green around, and I can possibly make it through the next Delica as well. Okay, so you can see how it's zipping together very nicely, and then I'm going to go through the red bead. And then the Delica on the left-hand side. And then the last Delica on the right-hand side. Okay. And then you're going to go into the green bead on the left-hand side. Okay. Then you're going to sew through your 3mm bicone that's on the top of your star, okay, where the point is. And then you're going to go down the green bead on the left hand side. So we're coming down the back now, okay? And it's the same thing. Just turn your star over. So I'm coming out of the green on the left hand side. I'm going through the Delica on the right hand side that is sticking out. And I'm going to go into the next Delica on the left hand side as well. Then I'm going to go into the red bead on the right and the next Delica on the left. Okay, so I'm just zipping 2 beads at a time on the right and the left now, just because it's a little bit quicker. I'm going through the green bead on the right, the next Delica on the left. I'm going through the bicone and then the next Delica on the left. And I'm keeping that bicone, being careful to keep that bicone on the top, on the outside of my star, okay? And then I'm going again through the green and then the next Delica, just zipping the 2 sides together. Going through the red on the right and the next Delica on the left. I'm going through the next Delica on the right and the green bead on the left. And here, you may ask, what do I do now? So now we are going to sew. So I'm coming out on the right hand side right here. Okay, I'm going to sew through, sorry, on the left hand side, I'm going to sew through the left hand crystal. Okay. So I've sewn through that crystal and I'm just turning my piece, and now I'm going to get my next section. And I'm going to figure out how he goes. So he's going to go like this, and I'm going to go up through that, no, let's see. So I'm looking at this, I'm going to need to go into the first green bead after the crystal on my next piece. So you're just going to have to look at it and see where you need to join, okay? Because I can see here that here the green is in and that one is out. So I need to come from an outside. So that's why I knew I had to go into the new piece. And you can just keep your threads out of the way. You might need them, which is why I don't cut those ones off. You may need them. Okay. So now I'm just going to zip all the way up over the top and down the other side, just like I did here. So I'm coming out from the green. I'm going to sew into the Delica on the left this time. And then we have a Delica on the right, the red bead on the left. Okay, so just keep zipping. So I'm going to zip 2 more pieces together, and then I'm going to show you how to put some filling in so that it stays, the shape stays. And then I'm going to come back and I'm going to answer some questions, frequently asked questions, okay? Okay, so I have one more piece to join on, which I will do in just 1 second. So you can go ahead, join that last piece on, and then stuff it, and then zip together your final seam. When you're beading, make sure that your tails are all stuck on the outside, because if you get it on the inside, you're not going to be able to sew it in. So make sure to keep all of your loose tails on the outside. And you should not be joining any of your central crystals together yet. You should always be going through the crystal and then into the green bead on the next piece in order to join the next two pieces. So none of your crystals, you're not ever sewing from one crystal into the next crystal on the center. We will do that at the end. We'll do a little round and we'll finish that off, okay? As you can see here, you could also do a 6-pointed star if you wanted to, and that would work as well. I have room here to do one more if I wanted to. But a 5-point will just be a little bit fatter, okay? So let's talk about frequently asked questions. All right, so question number 1 is, why am I using rounds here, and can I just use all rounds, or can I just use all Delicas? And the simple answer is yes, you can. I like to use rounds on the seams because the beads are round and we're doing a sharp turn back on ourselves, and Delicas can be quite sharp. So if you're a very tight beater, you might end up cutting your thread. I also think it just looks a little bit nicer to have rounds on the outside, which is why I am doing rounds, okay? The second question is, what if I want to not have these colored ones here and I want to have like a diamond around it? How would I do that of like one color? Say I wanted to do a white diamond around my bicone, okay? So on row 5, when we're beading our 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 Delica, actually it's round 7, but when we're adding our 5 Delicas, you're going to add 1, 2, and then your third one is going to be whatever color you want your diamond to be, and then 2, and then on row 6 you're going to add 2. Your third and your fourth Delica are going to be your new color, and then on the row where we add 7, obviously you do 2, and then again your third and your fourth would be the new color. And then when you're zipping up, you're going to want this one and this one to be the new color, and that way you would have a diamond of a different color, a contrasting color around your star, around your bicone, okay? And another question that I may get asked is, can you use other beads like pearls? You can, obviously. The shape here is better for a bicone. A pearl's not going to sit as nice, it's going to sit up a little bit, but yes, in theory, yes, you can. The other option would be to use a slightly smaller bead with a 15-0 at the front and the back. So you can just play around, or if you wanted to do like an 8 millimeter bicone, you would have to start making your gap a few rows earlier. Can I make my star bigger or smaller? Absolutely. Just add more rows. Always start making a dip. You're going to need to start making a dip on a row where you're adding an odd number of beads, because you're going to skip like the middle one, or if you're adding 2, you're going to skip, say, if you were adding 9 on, okay, you're either going to want to, so you would do 1, 2, 3, 4, skip 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or you could do 1, 2, skip 3, 4, 5, 6, skip 7, 8, 9. So you can make your stars bigger, and you just have to plan ahead, okay? All right, so that concludes the question and answer section of this. And I'm thinking instead of making a 5-pointed star, I think I am going to make a 6-pointed star because I'm liking the look of that. That's very cute. So I'm going to have to make another one of these. Let's talk about stuffing. So you can use toy stuffing. Sorry, I'm trying to find... Okay. You can use toy stuffing, but the problem with that is that sometimes little hairs of it stick out. So a trick I learned, I have gazillions of like plastic bags, shopping bags, everything comes in these plastic bags. You can actually cut out a square of this, sort of scrunch it up like this, okay, and put it in. And it's clear for one thing, and it's not hairy, so it's not going to poke out. So what I like to use is just plastic. So it's good, you know, good to reuse it for the environment. And so that's what I would recommend for your stuffing, okay? So I am going to make one more section, and then I'm going to zip this together. Zip it all the rest of it together and stuff it, and then once I've done that I can reinforce my center circles, and then I can also go back and anywhere where I feel like maybe a crystal on the end needs a little help, or maybe one of these doesn't feel quite sturdy, I can go back and reinforce that as well, okay? Okay, so I went ahead and made one more wedge, one more warped square, and I've just cut a plastic bag, cut the top off of it, and I've cut a couple little squares, and I'm just going to start stuffing it before I start zipping it up. And I might want to actually make smaller squares. There's no real formula for this, you just have to experiment with what works for your size of star. And I'm just gonna start stuffing each little point, and it helps. You can kind of get a pen or your scissors or whatever, and something, a chopstick would work, something to help you pack each arm of your star. And it doesn't have to be super stuffed, you just don't want it to collapse, which it will if it doesn't have anything in it. But, I mean, it doesn't have to be like bursting at the seams, you know, it just needs a little bit of help. So, okay, this is working well. So I'm just putting in little wedges of about 1 to 2 inches and sort of 3 inches long. And that seems to be working well for a 6-pointed star. Now, obviously a 5-pointed star is going to be a little bit fatter than a 6-point. This one's a little more flat, so you may want a little bit more in the middle for a 5-pointed star. Anyway, like I said, there's no hard and fast rules here. Just do what feels good to you. As you can see, it's really not very scientific at all. And what I'm going to do for the last one, I'm going to zip up one side, and then I'm going to stuff it, and then I'll zip up the other side. And then I will show you how to finish off the center. So if you have only 5 pieces, you can probably just close it up and it's not going to be that noticeable. But if you have 6 crystals in the middle, I think you're probably going to need to add something in the middle to cover the holes so that you don't see the stuffing. So let me finish this and then I'll come back. Okay, so I zipped up the back side and I'm just putting my last piece of stuffing into my star on the front. And you just kind of have to use brute force and just kind of hold it in place while you're zipping up. So I'll just continue my zipping on the front here. It shouldn't take too long. I want to make sure that that crystal pops out on the front. And I think these little accent crystals on the end look really cute once you've gone over the top. And I'll show you how I, on my previous one, did the hanger. So I actually beaded like through the side here, and I made a loop like that so that it would hang straight. So that's what I recommend that you do to put on a hanger, is put a loop of beads. I did a double loop. I did an 8/0 and then 3 11s, an 8/0, 3 11s, and I went all the way around, and then I went through the 8/0, then added 3 more 11s through the existing 8/0. So that's how I did it. Obviously, you don't have to do that. If you wanted to, you could even just sew a ribbon or something on, depending on how you want it to be. All right, so let me finish zipping this up. Anyway, these make great little gifts for people, teachers, neighbors, anybody that you feel like you want to give them something. You know, and they feel special because you handmade it. So, you know, it's nice, and you can customize it. Your colors, you could do a Halloween one if you wanted. Some people have trees for all different holidays nowadays. So, I think it would be fun if where you had the green bit, this bit, if you did black and white stripe right here, I got weird tension, so I'm going to have to go back and reinforce that. Okay, and then at the very end, you have to sew into the next crystal over. Once you've gone through your bottom green, just to close that up. Okay, so as you can see, my stuffing is poking out the front, so I am going to have to do something, put something there. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sew around all 6 of the center crystals on this side, and I'm going to try and poke that in a bit better. There we go. Okay, so once you've zipped all of your bits together, go ahead and go all the way around that central circle of 6 crystals. And you know how the crystals were not sitting straight when we first put them on. This will get them all to line up nicely. And just keep your other threads, whatever other threads you have, out of the way for now. Okay, so there's my little central circle, and yes, I can see a little bit of stuffing in there. Now, if that doesn't bother you, that's fine. If you wanted to add another crystal, which I think is what I'm going to do, you can do that. So I'm just going to add one more 3mm crystal. So I'm just coming out from one of them, and I am going to pick up my crystal, and I'm going to go through the 3 on this side, and then I'm going to go up the middle, and then I'm going to go through the 3 on that side up the middle. Okay, so just find where the middle is. If you have 5, obviously you would go into one of the, if you're coming out from this crystal, you'll go into, you'll skip 2 and you'll come back up, and you'll go through, you'll skip 2 and you'll come back up. If you have only 5, but because I have 6, I can go through 3 on each side. I'm actually thinking I'm gonna add a red one here because you can't see it and I think it looks weird. So I'm gonna have to pull this out. Okay, second attempt. Let's see how a red one looks. Yeah, that's much nicer. Okay. Okay, so I got my crystal sewn over my hole, and I'm gonna go up this way so I can just tighten that bit there, and do the same thing on the other side. And then once you've done that, you can start to tie in all your threads. And when I say tie, we're not really gonna tie, we're just going to, maybe you might wanna run up here, reinforce, and then run through some of the stitching and eventually just cut it off, because it's not going to come undone once you've kind of gone up and down and around and about. So you're going to tie all of your odd ends off, and then if you want to make a hanging loop, you can do that. And really that's all it is. So yeah, 5 or 6 pointed star, same concept, and adding in your own color of crystals. So I'll come back and show you the finished product. Okay, and then just before I tie in my threads, I'm gonna do one last step. So see how these beads are often rather far apart? So what I'm gonna do is I'm coming out from one of the crystals, and I'm just gonna go up into the bead on this side, and then I'm gonna go down the first green bead on the next row. And that's, see how it pulled that in together more? And then I'm just gonna go up the next one. Keep that thread out of the way. And then I'm gonna go down the next one. And I'm just gonna do that all the way around in order to help just pull those central 11 rows together a little bit better. And then you can just tie in your threads, okay? Okay, so I finally tied off all of my threads, and you guys can see how cute it came out. I think it is really nice with the 6 points. I'm glad that I added that extra point in. I just need to put a hanger on, and I need to think about what I want to do for that. But anyway, I hope you guys have fun making these, and you know, do experiment, maybe try and do one with, instead of these little accents, you know, try like an accent diamond around your bicone, or you know, just play around, see what you come up with. I would love to see your makes. So if you're not in my Facebook group, I'll put a link for that down below. Would love to have you join it. Otherwise, you can tag me on Facebook or on Instagram at Jules and Rose. So that's at Jules, A-N-D for and Rose, all one word, okay? All right, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video. Take care, bye.